according to my time, it is 10 minutes past 10. So we gave 10 minutes for more people to join in. So thank you very much once again for joining in. I'm just going to proceed with the webinar. My name is Elizabeth Odeniyi, and I'm a consultant at the TTSWG. That's the Telecommunication and Technology Sustainability Working Group. The TTSWG, they are the organizers of today's webinar, and it is my great pleasure to welcome you to another edition of the webinar. We've had similar webinars like this in the past. This is the third of its kind, and the past two webinars focused on different aspects of sustainability because, as you know, the TTSWG is a sustainability working group, and the group was formed to ingrain sustainability systems in the telecoms and technology sector through capacity building. So when we say capacity building, some of the things that we're referring to are things like trainings and webinars that we usually hold from time to time. And other means through which the TTSWG plans to ingrain sustainability within the sector is through standard setting, that's standardization of best practices within the sector and associating. So for what the TTSWG is about, the TTSWG is a collaborative effort, again, that is aimed at yielding joint efforts among key telecommunications and technology stakeholders. So they can achieve this through advocacies with different other stakeholders within the sector. So when we say stakeholders, we're referring to government stakeholders, we're referring to community stakeholders, we're referring to both internal and external stakeholders for businesses like that. And this group was basically formed, again, to drive sustainability within the sector. You would agree with me that sustainability is here to stay. It might seem like a lot of people are saying a lot of things about sustainability, and it seems like a lot of other people don't understand the concept, but sustainability basically and simply has to do with fulfilling your organization's current needs without compromising the needs of future generations. That's a simple definition of what sustainability is. And what that really means is to ensure that you are able to balance economic growth, environmental care, and social well-being. Oh, thank you very much for introducing yourself. I think that we can also do that in the chat section. We can go ahead and introduce ourselves and where we're joining from. But it would also be important to pay attention to some of the things we're saying about the TTSWG and why we are gathered here this morning. So as I said in the past, TTSWG has held other webinars and trainings to address sustainability challenges within the telecoms and tech sector. And you might want to catch up with some of those things on our YouTube channel. Our YouTube channel is TTSWG. So you might want to catch up on some of the past webinars that we have done. And you might also want to visit our website, www.ttswg.org, for more information about us. But I'll still continue to go through talking about what TTSWG is about. Currently, we have different members on board the TTSWG. Please remember that TTSWG is a group of organizations. So we have telecoms and organizations ranging from telcos to OEMs, that's original equipment manufacturers, to value-added services, to network operators, network providers. So current members of TTSWG include HP, Altin, MTN. They are all shown on your screen at the moment. These are members of TTSWG at the moment. And we are accepting membership to the TTSWG. If you know that your organization is interested in imbibing best practices and you are a telecommunications and tech organization within Nigeria, you might want to visit our website, www.ttswg.org, and click on the Become a Member button to begin your sustainability journey with other like-minded organizations. So going further, our board members are Engineer Abduwaya. Engineer Abduwaya has been a technology specialist for over 30 years, and he serves on the National Broadband Steering Committee of the NCC. We also have Dr. Umi Hassan. She's also been in the tech space for a long time. We have Mr. Chris Uwaje, who we call the Oracle, if you're very familiar with him within the telecommunication sector in Nigeria. Then we have Madam Iklimatu Abubakar and Professor Francis Idachaba of Covenant University. These people make up our board members, our advisory board members on TTSWG. All right. Some more information about us is that we are a group of telecoms organizations working to address sustainability needs, and we are working to address these needs by preferring sustainable solutions to various economic, governance, social, and environmental challenges in the sector. And if you agree with me, our webinar today addresses two aspects of sustainability. So it addresses both the social and governance aspect under sustainability. Another thing that we plan to do by bringing all of these important stakeholders on board the TTSWG is to provide an innovative platform to engage stakeholders in the sector. So from the corporate, governmental, and communal levels. Then we hope to be able to position each industry as sustainability focused, or each organization within the industry as sustainability focused. This allows for international buying for organizations that would be involved in international affiliations, and also to encourage collective action among stakeholders in this sector. So you might be wondering why I'm talking so much about the TTSWG and telling you about it. I mean, we, or the TTSWG, organized this webinar. So it's important for you to know who you're dealing with and what we are about. So I had spoken earlier about accepting memberships into the TTSWG, and you might want to know what you stand to gain, what the benefit is if you become a member of the TTSWG. So that would include being a member of the TTSWG gives you access. Oh, I'm seeing a comment here that says my sound is slow. Is my sound still slow?
Your sound is okay, it's perfect.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Okay, so let me just continue through then. Some of the benefits of membership in the TTSWG, thank you, would be, apart from accessing networking opportunities to other industry stakeholders. Thank you very much for letting me know that sounds clear. Thank you. Also giving opportunity to define the sustainability direction for the sector through standardizations. So when I was speaking earlier about some of our objectives and how we plan to achieve it, I had mentioned through advocacy, through standardizations, through capacity building. And if standards are set in place on sustainability for the sector, being a part of TTSWG would help to drive the direction of sustainability within the sector. So these are some of the benefits that comes with joining or partaking in membership of the TTSWG. We also have practical understanding of sustainability and sustainability performance in organizations. We found out from research from companies within Nigeria that as much as sustainability is becoming a well-known discussion or conversation, a lot of organizations are not necessarily familiar with it. And that's what we seek to do at TTSWG, to make
Okay, I guess Elizabeth's network is she's having a bit of a challenge with her network. So as she was saying about sustainability drive, my name is Choma Ahmarite, also a consultant at CSR in Action, and one of those working to promote sustainability for the TTSWG. I just want to make sure, can everybody hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Problema.
Okay, so just as she was saying, the aim of the TTSWG is basically to push for sustainability and to let people understand that, you know, sustainability is here to stay, that you don't have to actually start from doing something big. You can start from where you are. You start from something small, because most people, when they hear about sustainability, they are thinking, oh, we have to maybe change our environment, change every process. You will get there eventually. We're trying to let people understand that sustainability starts from, you know, baby steps. You don't need to be at the top first. You can start with maybe trying to reduce your water intake, trying to reduce how you use your energy, trying to do more recycling. So for those in the tech sector, some of them do not understand how this applies to them. They don't understand how in any way they are generating any issues. Oh, Elizabeth, you're back. Okay, you can continue.
Yes, thank you very much, Chioma. I had continued speaking and I didn't realize that my internet went off. So apologies for that. Thank you. So speaking to some of the membership benefits of the TTSWG, please can you let me know if you can still hear me in the chat box so that.
Yes,
Okay.
we can hear you. I can hear you, please.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So I'm just going to continue what I was saying about the membership opportunities within TTSWG. I had gone over the fact that it gives access to networking opportunities with different stakeholders within the group. Thank you very much for letting me know. And gives the opportunity to define the sustainability direction for the sector, gives a practical understanding of sustainability, gives you access to resources that drive business sustainability within the sector, access to a pool of resources from different sector players, and also aligns business models and practices with international best standards or international standards from a sustainability lens. I think that this last point is a benefit for all, especially because this webinar is one of those engagements that aligns or seeks to align businesses with international best practices, pardon me. So yes, you can always contact us. We'll put our contact information, the Secretariat of the TTSWG's contact information in the chat box right now. So you can always reach us if you have any questions about the TTSWG, or if you'd like to know what we are about. You can visit our website again at www.ttswg.org to find out more information, and you can place a call through to us. We'll share our contact information in the chat box as well. So thank you once again for joining this webinar, and we hope that your questions will be answered by the time we take on the panelists and we have the discussion and we have the question and answer aspect. You can just drop in your questions there. So yes, thank you very much. Moving on. We will take questions, as I said earlier, from our different expert speakers and panelists that have joined us today. So to not waste a lot of time, I'll just invite my colleague Chioma. She came in when I went off earlier. She'll do an introduction to the webinar to give us an understanding of why we are all here today, the topic, and she would also be introducing the different speakers. So thank you very much for joining us. Chioma, you have the floor.
Thank you. That was a great introduction, Elizabeth. Thank you very much. Okay, so sorry. So the screen is coming up. Okay, we have our speakers from different facets of safety, health, safety, and environment. We have Engineer Badmus. He's very well known in the safety sphere. We call him the Jagaban of safety. He has over 20 years of being in this network. He's very analytical. He has, in fact, words fail me or words how to, to actually introduce him. I've been opportune to be in a lot of his some programs, and he is the current chair of the KHSA Leadership Network. He's the Chief Academic Responsibility Officer for KHS Academy. And Mr. Dakpo Omolade, he's the CEO of Hybrid Group, HSC Group. They are so, anything you want in safety, project management, and name it, he has it. Mr. Ian, great safety standards. Safety is about neighbor, she's your go-to. Madam Ngozi, she's here as an expert. She has been in the field for over 20 years. She's currently the senior marketing manager for Amazon. She's going to be speaking to us from the perspective of someone, not from safety, but from the business angle, why this is going to be, why you need well-being in your organization. And then our moderator, Madame Lola Eso, she's current partner in EY West Africa. So this topic is basically about well-being as a hallmark of sustainability in the tech sector. These days, there are a lot of talk now about wellness, well-being, mental health, and people are now looking for something much more than remuneration. How much are you paying me? They want to be in a place that the work environment is actually conducive for them, for their mental wellness, physical wellness. The company is looking out for their emotional wellness. And after the advent of the COVID-19, we had to go into hybrid. It was no longer you have to be at the office all the time. We had to evolve, going into working with your computers virtually and all that. So it's not just the tech sector, but I think almost every sector was affected by this. And the workplace was brought to the home, and in a way, I think I would say balance was a bit lost. So now a lot of people are talking about wellness, talking about well-being, mental health. So in the tech sector, we all know that the tech sector can be a bit fierce in competition, because everybody wants to be at the top. Everybody wants to be the next Microsoft. Everybody wants to be the next just Bezos. Everybody wants to be everybody's bringing up new apps, new communications, and you have to be the best. But how do you balance that need of being the best and taking care of your prospective employees, of your employees, so that they are not drained, so that they don't start feeling I don't know why I'm here anymore. It's like the job is taking all over me, and I need my own space. So this webinar basically is for us to understand how you can use your well-being, how having a well-being culture within your organization can help you get to the next level, can help you retain staff, can help you to get more productive staffs that are much more invested, more than their salary, what this organization is going for. So that is basically what this well-being wellness program is about, this seminar is about. And I know our panelists are going to do justice to that. So Madam Esson, I don't know if she's currently on the line, but let's just take a few words from our panelists. We'll start with Engineer Badmus, what he thinks about wellness, well-being, in general. And
thank you very much, Shoma. Happy to be here.
Go
Thanks
from
to
there.
all.
Each person will give us.
Thank you very
Sorry
much,
to
Thomas. Can you hear
interrupt.
me?
Continue.
Please, can you hear me,
Chama, I'm
Thomas?
definitely here.
Hello.
Please, can you hear
Hello,
me? Please?
Engineer
Chama,
Badmus. Are you there?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you so much. Thanks to
Yes, we
the
can hear you.
other panelists.
No, we
Thanks
cannot see
thanks.
you.
Okay. Thanks for the invite, and thanks to all our leaders that are present on the panelists and everyone of us that have come all the way. I read a message that please could you interpret in Hindi. That means the person joined from India. So thanks to all our leaders. Well-being is very important. It's all about your health. It's all about the people. When you have an organization and the people are not. Hello, can you hear me? When you have an organization and the people are not being motivated, or the people have health challenges, automatically it will affect the productivity of the entire business enterprise. So therefore, well-being, sustainable well-being is the way to go. As we continue with the presentation, we are going to share a lot of ideas in this regard. Thank you.
Should I follow on? I'm happy to speak. So hi, my name's Ian Cook from NEBOSH. Thank you for inviting me here today to speak. So essentially, I think well-being as part of a sustainable workforce is really important, as most employees, when they work for an organization or carry out work, they have a relationship with that organization. And that goes beyond just payment and contracts. That goes into how well does your organization look after you? If your organization takes care of you, considers the challenges that you have in your day-to-day job, from health and safety risks, but then also helps train you, gives you controls, provides you with the right equipment, the protective clothing, and the knowledge to do your job safely, then they show that they care about you. If they show they care about you, you often return that and you show that you care about them. So you actually become a more productive employee, someone who's likely to stay for a long time and not want to leave. You'll be happy in your job. And I think also you'll be better at your job, because you'll be in a position where you can concentrate on doing your job, and your customers will see that happy employee, and that's a representation of your business. So there's many positives to having happy, engaged, safe employees from a well-being perspective. A bit about me: I have a background in consultancy and training, and I've worked with some large organizations globally across numerous regions. I haven't got a great deal of experience in Africa, so I've only been to Africa with work once, Egypt. So it's great to hear and see some people here today and learn more. But now working for NEBOSH, we are obviously a global examination body for health and safety qualifications. My role there is to look after our corporate and consumer services. This is corporate services for training, and our books and consumer services, so publications and other services that we provide to support our qualifications. And that's me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Cook. Thank you very much. So I think we'll hear from Ms. Ngonadin Koji.
Much, Elizabeth. I think good morning, everyone. I'm not sure if you can hear me. It's 5:30 a.m. for me. But thank you so much, and well done to the TTSWG for putting this together. I think it's a very important conversation to start to have, because a lot of people think about sustainability and you think about the earth and carbon emissions and that kind of stuff. But thinking about it from this angle of employee sustainability, I think is a very welcome conversation. I've had the opportunity to work in one company for over 16 years and then move to another company. And I've seen it pan across where the churn, indeed in the technology sector, is huge. People are resigning from their job. We're talking about the great resignation. One thing I will say is clear is that this new generation of young employees are no longer traditional. And the way that employers, especially in the tech and telecom sector, have to approach hiring to prevent this attrition has to change. Thank you so much for having me. I'm not a security expert like Ejina Jamiu, but I will say that I have been on both sides of the coin, and I hope to add value to the conversation today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Ngozi. Thank you very much. I think we'll hear from, yes, Mr. Olade now. Yes.
All right, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Yes, we can.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone. And it's so good to be here. So let me start by saying thank you to TTSWG for putting this together. I think this is so apt at this time, especially for not just for the older generations, but for most of us who are on this call, which I'm very sure will be the age bracket of the young workers. This is so applicable to what we do and how it affects us at this time. However, I would like to say that for my opening, I'll be looking at the employer, and well, one of the things I would like to say here is that if you're an employer here, and I think this particular webinar will help you to understand very quickly how you can transform your business, especially now that things are changing. Traditionally, things will no longer be the same, and therefore, I would like to speak to an employer who is here to say, investing in employee well-being and engagement will drive your return on investment. There are many other reasons why you need to do this, but for employer, most of the time it's about ROI. It's about what comes back and what you gain at the end of it. And I think this would be a very good strategy to ensuring that you can actually not just meet the stakeholders' need, but make sure that every stakeholder is happy and the business is sustainable. Thank you so very much. I look forward to a very good conversation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Molade. So I'll yield the floor to the moderator now, Mrs. Lola Esson, to lead the conversation.
Good morning, everyone. Certainly a real pleasure to be here and steering the discussions on a very topical issue. I quite like the fact that we have hinged it on sustainability, because what we're certainly seeing as an HR consultant and managing businesses or helping businesses survive the return to work and the future of work is a renewed focus on sustainability. So thanks to the TTSWG for steering these conversations. And I know I speak for everyone on the call to say we're definitely looking to learn and glean from the insights. I think one of the things I'm hoping we can get from this session this morning is not just information around what's new, what's going on. It would also really be practical insights for how we can engage stakeholders on really bringing in the relevance of health and safety into sustainable development or sustainability overall in the organization. So thanks to the panelists for the introductions, and very interesting and very profile we have across board. I think I quickly want to start off, Dapo, by bringing you back into some of the introductions we've heard from the other panelists. And I'd like you to maybe just help us establish the connection here. Because if you recall, certainly before COVID, we didn't put safety in the organization. It was down to output, outcomes, what people were doing to ensure we didn't have incidents. But now we're talking about mental health, we're talking about well-being, we're talking about, so all of those things have come in. So maybe help us set off the foundation as we go on. Really, what's the relationship? How is workplace well-being and workplace safety interrelated? What hazards or risks are you seeing from the ICT and tech sector? And really, what do you think we can do to prevent those issues? I think we should just start on that as we build on the case around the topic this morning. Thank you.
All right, thank you so very much, Lola. It's nice to see you again. Thank you for that. I think, like I said in my opening, this is a very interesting time to be. These are very interesting times to be, actually. And for us in the health and safety space, I think we cannot be happier, because for many years we have longed for this opportunity because our job basically revolves around ensuring that workers that's the greatest asset of any business, are protected. I tell people most of the time that amongst every other system that you can put in place in your workplace, health and safety is that one that actually directly relates to the workers. It's actually the one that get the workers to a point where they are not just happy to be workers, but they're also happy to stay. We are staying here, and at the end of our stay here, we still have our own life to live. And so the relationship between workplace and well-being is so key, because workplace is where humans, yourself, myself, come to work. And then we have to work in that place in a state that does not just allow us to continue to work, but a state that makes us feel loved, feel cared for, feel very important in the system, and of course, feel looked after. Because in many places, it's about profit, it's about productivity, it's about deliverables. Now, what are you looking at with respect to those who are delivering those KPIs? So health and safety, sustainability, and workplace wellness and well-being eventually has to look at how the workers how they actually come to the table where they deliver what you want them to deliver, and at the end, they are still in one piece. And I'm very mindful of that word, because one piece here does not mean they've not lost any part of their body or anything. It simply means they could have developed so many other things that will make them unfit for the workplace or for the society at the end of it. And with respect to the telecom space and the ICT space, I always say that every workplace has their own hazards and risks that you have to continuously manage. And these are things that can directly affect the workers. But in the telecom space and the ICT space, there are some of these hazards that are really very important for us to look at. Usually I call them the 9 lives. Why do I call them 9 lives? Because these are potential risk or the hazard that you have in the workplace that can kill, they can maim, they can destroy, they can reduce the lifespan and longevity of the workers. Examples are in the telecom space, we have very dangerous stuff like working at heights. Most telecom industry have to do a lot at height, so the risk of falls is always there. They work with very dangerous energies, and we call them hazardous energies. Electricity, they have radiations, and all of this are potential risk to everyone that is working in that place, because a single release of any of this energy can cause massive destruction and death. As a matter of fact, can cause a lot of destruction to the business. You have very interesting one. Telecoms is one of those industries where people work at any time of the day. I call it 24/7, 4/12, 365. What that means is there's no break. There's no stopping. Work is going on 24/7. I see people come at midnight, in the telecom space, coming to fix something that is wrong. So throughout the year cycle, they are continuously working. So work duration, long hours, which speaks to wellness and well-being, because that's a big one that people are not looking at. When you have to work for long hours on any space, your well-being can actually be, at that point, that be jeopardized. You talk about a lot about working in poor weather conditions. Fire hazards are there because of electricity and other things that they're using, consumables. A lot of lifting operations taking place. And again, manual handling. And when you go to the back end of those that support those on the field, you see a lot of ergonomics issue. A lot of workstation, are not properly positioned. I spoke with a friend of mine some time ago, and you see a control room where a staff or an IT person works in the ICT sector. It could be as cool as 10 degrees. And a popular discussion always takes place. And my friend Jamu that is here worked in that space for a long time. And you hear something saying, oh, those ACs are for the equipment, not for the workers. So somebody is staying in a place where temperature is almost 10 degrees, and it is for the equipment and not for the workers. So you understand that you don't really consider the workers, you are considering your own productivity. And of course, you now have the final one, I would say, the sedentary work lifestyle. For those who work at the back end, you just sit down 24/7 on a single seat, you don't know what to do. All this impact on your awareness. I think for the solutions, I'll just say one thing and I'll close. I think the organizations or companies at this point need to develop a kind of a system, understanding that the awareness and the welfare of the workers are very important. So a system has to be put in place within the system as part of the framework of the business to ensure that your workers can work safely, and of course their life can be protected beyond the time they are working for you, even after they have left your workplace. Thank you very much.
I mean, thank you so much, Tapo. That point around the ACs for the equipment and not the people, that is certainly very revealing. I'm sure, I mean, I would be looking to get more insights into that from Engineer Badmos. But you touched on a point as to generally what the tech sector is known for, the ICT sector. Ngozi, I want to come over to you because you are well known in branding, in marketing, in this market, certainly. And thanks for joining so early. And you have now moved into tech. So I think you can even now give us both perspectives. But if you look back on our lives through the pandemic, we have tech and definitely the ICT sector to thank for our recovery. And now the journey into progressing on back to normal. But we're seeing a situation where definitely in the US, it's said that about 72% of tech employees are thinking of quitting in the next 12 months. So we have a situation here where we relied heavily on tech and the ICT sector to get out of or to cope with the pandemic. But it looks like that very thing that helped us is now sort of the one to blame for the issues we're discussing. So can tech really fix what tech has broken? What are your thoughts?
I think you're on mute.
Yeah, I see that. I read somewhere that the most used phrase in 2021 was "you're on mute," and we think that we can escape it. But thank you so much, Ian. So, can tech really fix what tech broke? And the question is, what did tech really break? Right? What has happened is that I saw that article, interestingly enough, and the reasons why people are leaving jobs has not necessarily changed. So apart from, and I'll take a step back to say for context, that apart from companies revisiting having bad bosses, an unsafe workplace environment, like Mr. Dabo has said, we now have to understand that what has happened is that the pandemic has changed everything. It has absolutely changed everything. We're watching on social media with the rise of all these memes around how Gen Z is reacting to things in the workplace versus millennials. The things that people used to accept, they no longer accept, especially in the tech sector, where whether we like it or not, even though there's a great attrition and a lot of reshuffling. So when people say I leave a job, they reshuffle. And one person, Google pays more because the person came from Amazon, and Amazon pays because the person came from Meta, and then they go to a small startup. The difference now is that they can and they will. I mentioned in my introduction that I spent 16 years at one company, and it was a thing of pride. I've been here 10 years. I've been there for 18 years. I worked there for 21 years. Now, when you say I've been there 2 years, it's like, oh my goodness, 2 years? Wow, that's huge. Because nobody cares. Loyalty is not necessarily a thing anymore, especially for people 35 and under. And that is the bulk of the workforce, isn't it? I'm going to move from the US, especially in Nigeria, where at least the last time I checked, I think we were reporting something like 65 or 70% of the population under the age of 35. It's a young population. And whether tech companies like it or not, you have to solve for the young population. So what has happened now after the pandemic is that there's a crazy rush to innovate. People realize in the pandemic that there are new opportunities, driverless cars. People no longer want to shop in store. They want to buy online and pick up in store. So many gray areas that had immediate needs, because I think Elizabeth mentioned in her opening that everybody wants to solve. They want to solve and become the leader in that space. And so what has happened is that a lot of tech people are hired for us to solve this immediate issue. And so there is churn, repeated work. And then what has happened with working from home is you sit at your desk and the work doesn't stop. People are blocking their calendars to take lunch. They're blocking their calendars to walk their dogs. They're blocking their calendars to you know, go and pick up their kids from school if they have young kids. They're bringing their kids onto Zoom meetings and team meetings and Chime meetings. And so things have changed. So what I believe has happened now is that shift, and world domination, according to the tech and telecom sectors, needs to take a chill pill. I don't think the change is going to happen now because there are many people looking for work. And I bring it back to Nigeria. I hate to say it, from what I see, people make it seem like there's no choice. If you leave that job, somebody else will fill the job. But I hope that telcos and tech companies are not falling for that trap, because you're going to reshuffle and you're going to spend more money on onboarding new people. So the things that need to be put in place are things that fit for not me, but for the people who are 40 or 35 and under. Workplace relaxation. The work will get done. Their well-being is important. Train your leaders. We have to train our leaders, because what has happened is the pandemic happened, but your leaders are still older. Your leaders are still older people who believe you must, I sent it to you at 8 p.m. Why have you not replied? I logged off, and, you know, and I went for drinks with my friends. And that's okay, because they can solve for it the next morning. So you've kept the same leaders, but you want to hire a younger workforce. I know that I keep harping on the leaders, but because there's that generational gap between leaders and this new workforce, we have to work on our leaders. Diversity is not just about race, it's about age. There needs to be diversity at the leadership table.
I mean, thanks a lot, Ngozi, and thanks for those nuggets. So I think if I was to summarize, it's the fact that ICT tech, and I think generally all of us need to take a chill pill when it comes to work. And I can definitely see that happening, you know. So when you talk about sustainability, originally it was left at diversity, gender, climate change, net zero carbon, but we're seeing increasingly that the work and the design of work is a huge part of it. So I like the fact that you said it really rises and falls on leadership. And I think, as we saw in the wake of the bad bosses scenario, that people are not leaving bad organizations. They are leaving bad leaders. So I want to bring you in here now, Ian, to speak to this issue, just building on what Ngozi said. I think, again, surveys are showing that, look, about over 50% of HR leaders get the idea that there's a need to begin to focus on wellness and bring it back in. But the data is showing that a majority are having challenges convincing leadership on the need to make that investment. And I think Ngozi's touched on it. So how would you recommend that we position well-being in the conversation around strategic agenda, and what themes should be prioritized in that discussion? Ian.
Thank you. Yeah, it's an interesting topic because well-being is hard to measure. So with, say, fire safety or pressure systems or noise or the energies that I think Dapo spoke about earlier, electricity, you can measure current and voltage. Noise, you can measure decibels. You know, lots of hazards in the workplace you can measure. But when it comes to human well-being, it's very difficult to measure those types of things, and everyone is different. So the pressures you might face as one individual in a business, you may react differently to it. And the same person sitting next to you has the same pressure or even less pressure, but they react in a more difficult way. You know, it will create more stress for them. And that's a psychological reaction. And there's lots of different ways of analyzing it. But the point is, people are different. And it's very difficult to measure. So a strategic objective to sort of reduce wellness by numbers and well-being by numbers is often hard to implement. So if I take a logical view of this, which, you know, please, this is how I have worked with businesses in the past and some of the advice I'd given. But first and foremost, businesses need to understand their day-to-day risk, okay, that workers are operating against. I think people mentioned that. And that's the realistic risk that people are exposed to, not unrealistic risk. Okay, realistic risk management, sensible, proportionate risk management. What is likely to happen and what is the most likely outcome? Many people overestimate risk and think tripping over a wire could kill you. Well, 1 in a million people maybe, but most people will have a minor injury. So that's a low risk. Higher risks need more attention. I think too many businesses focus too much on all risk. What they need to do is say to staff, you have some significant risks and you have some lower risks. We have controlled those risks to allow you to do your job without worrying about them. So too many staff have to try and understand all the risks around them, which actually makes their well-being, you know, a negative effect on their well-being, because they're being told too many things about health and safety, when realistically most workers don't need to worry about that. They should be concentrating on doing their job and making sure that they do that correctly and not having to try and understand health and safety. So health and safety should be silent in many ways. However, when it comes to well-being, I think it's really important people understand that the employer supports them. It gives them a strong foundation and gives them the opportunity to discuss their well-being at work. So if they are feeling stressed or anxious, or they're worried about certain things at work, they should have the freedom to be able to speak and make comments around this. So it's a different approach, well-being. I think from experience, many businesses have robust systems in terms of safety and risk, and it's written down, a lot of detail. When it comes to well-being, it's a little bit vague sometimes. And I think sometimes organizations, because they communicate too much, they would be better off focusing on some simple things and being really effective with it. Just focusing on 1 or 2 things, such as working hours, you know, the amount of people's time people spend at work, and encouraging the right balance between work and home. And if they just focused on one thing like that and did that properly, they might find staff engage in many other areas of the business as well. So I think someone mentioned about sending emails late at night. You know, some people may find that helps them. They may have children, so they may have to do early mornings with children, and then after work, they have to look after their children or care for parents. So actually the only time they get is to maybe do some work late at night. Maybe that suits them. But I think the point is, it's still making sure that people only do so many hours a week, what they're contracted to, and not expecting them to do more. So focusing on 1 or 2 things can have a greater output, if that makes sense. But
Thank
yes.
you so much. Yeah, and I mean, I think that's very helpful. I like how you've broken it down to say, when it comes to wellness and well-being, because people are different, right? You would almost need to have a customized approach to it. You also find that when it comes to the concept of wellness, or generally even HSST or HST, there tends to be some information overload, which in itself creates another problem. So thanks for that. So I want to bring you in, Engineer Badmus, because I mean, in your own background, you do a lot of work around sustainability, around HST, advising companies. I mean, what would be your response to some of the nuggets we've heard from Ian and Ngozi around what we should be looking at when it now comes to building wellness or making the organization in tune with wellness? What would be priority for establishing that balance with sustainability?
Hello, can you hear me, please?
Yes, we can.
Thank you so much. Wellness, well-being in our profession, just we start from Vision Zero, it's all about safety, health, and well-being. And when I go like this, based on what Elizabeth said, a lot of people don't understand sustainability concept the way it is. We just feel sustainability is all about climate change, it's all about life on water. If you check the SDG goals, the Sustainable Development Goals from 1 to 17, you will get to note that it started from issues of no poverty, zero hunger. It goes to education and comes down to how we cannot have partnership at 17. So well-being is making staff to be happy, and I'm going to give you a very good instance in the history. There used to be a man, the CEO of Alcoa, aluminum company of America. When he became the CEO, when the company was undergoing serious problem, economic meltdown, their economic health was in bad shape, and he became CEO, the next thing he did when he addressed the board and addressed all the members of the company is, I am going to make Alcoa a safe company. I am going to ensure zero injury in Alcoa. I am going to make Alcoa staff be motivated. But people thought, you're supposed to be thinking of profit. What is wrong with this man? We want a profit, and you are talking of the people. You are talking of zero injury. What concerns you about well-being? So the man said, let's start the work. And he started. And he was looking at the well-being of the people, making them happy, making them healthy, motivating them, bearing in mind that if people are motivated, what is difficult becomes simple. When people are demotivated, what is simple becomes difficult. He managed the people, engaged the people, as Dapo has said, bearing in mind that sustainability itself hinges on 3 P's: the people, the planet, and the profit. It took the people concerned. It used the people to drive productivity, and productivity drives that profit they are talking about. I must tell you the truth, is a statistics is there today. Alcoa moved from 3 billion net worth to over 27.3 billion, and the market value increased of $1.4 billion because he was able to manage just one habit: worker safety. So all my colleagues present here have said it all. When you look at the well-being of the people, what you are addressing is critically even the profit you are talking about, because it's the people that makes the profit. It's the people that manages what to do. Let me now quickly go to this simple illustration: sustainable well-being. Now we have said it all, that if you as a people, if as an organization, you organize, wellness programs like people walk instead of driving cars. When you drive cars, you have carbon footprint, you pollute the environment likely, but when you walk, you are giving yourself a good health system, you are packaging yourself to be healthy, while at the same time, you are not polluting the environment. You can see how sustainability and well-being initiatives, how they work hand in hand. Let me give you another good example, and that is of Elon Musk. Elon Musk, the richest man in the world today. In his company, Tesla, there was a point in time that they are having a lot of injuries, accidents, and things are not doing well. Elon Musk called the management team, and that is why, Lola, you said it, leadership is very, very important. Elon Musk called the management team and said, let's go down and see what people are doing. When we say leadership in context, we're talking of leaders with empathy. And when you have empathy, you believe in the wellness of your staff. And that's very critical this time around. So he moved down to see what the workers are doing. And he told his management team, let's work as if we are the workers. That's empathy. And we're able to see that, look, these are the causes of all these injuries. And they quickly changed their strategy in their business, changed their assembly plants. And before you know it, accidents get reduced. Before you know it, people become motivated. Before you know it, they have a lot of productivity. And before you know it, the profits start coming in. And this is one of the richest man in the world. So a lot of wellness programs are there. As we continue this conversation, we'll come up with different programs that can be used in various organizations. I introduced one in the business. I call it system shutdown. What does it mean? What it means is, as a matter of fact, because of sedentary lifestyle, people, you create a time, maybe 12 o'clock to 12:10. You just shut down all the laptops. Everybody working on the system needs to, the laptop will just shut down on its own in the company, and everybody moves around and start networking and start talking to themselves. All these are awareness programs that can add value, especially in this period that we find ourselves. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Engineer Badmus. I think if I summarize again the nuggets from there, is essentially the fact that for you to really have a sustainable organization, you must pay good attention to people, planets, and then of course for profits. I think the examples you also shared, Alcoa, what Tesla is doing, are also some, as well as what you introduced, which you mentioned, system shutdown, to not just minimize the impact of sedentary behaviors, but also to encourage teaming and conversation. And these are definitely some of the things we see people are looking for when they want to switch or change jobs. So, because I want to bring you back in, because you talked about, you started us off on the leadership journey. Engineer Badmus talked about the relationship between people, profit, and the planet. And we can definitely see that a lot of organizations, as is certainly where I work, which is EY, we use sustainability as a big anchor for recruitment. So we've got over 75% of our employee population is below millennials, or millennial or below, and sustainability matters to them. So we're so big on our sustainability footprint and we're using it actively because this matters to this group of people. And so it's something we build everything we do around. But as you know, the great resignation is great and it's still happening. We're seeing the impact of even migration on business continuity. So it looks like you can't really keep using salary increase as one of the controls for making sure people don't go. So what else can we do really? What else can tech companies do in addition to prioritizing wellness to make sure this impact on our business or sustainability is now not, well, it appears to be a losing battle, but I don't think it is. But you have experience in branding, marketing, you've done a lot, and now you're in one of the largest tech companies. So in your view, really, what else should we be doing? Because we can't, remuneration battle is not sustainable. What else should we do to ensure that we're winning this war, we're insulated from the effects we're seeing in this case?
Thank you again, Lola. You call it the great resignation. And I love social media, because social media is like the party that brands are not invited to. They try their best to get in, to advertise and, find interesting ways to reach young people. But there they express themselves. And on there, they call it quiet quitting. And it's heartbreaking because what quiet quitting is showing up at work and doing the barest minimum until they let you go. Because after all, they're going to keep paying you, right? And then eventually they're going to realize, this guy's not adding value. But by then, the company has spent so much money, but you don't really care. The pandemic, like I said, changed everything. They saw people become millionaires in months. Some young girl who decided that her eyes looked funny, so she was going to start blogging about it. Kabilame, who is this Instagram or TikTok influencer, I think he's getting paid 750,000 per post now. He doesn't even speak because he has. So they've realized that there is a choice. They can actually create content, and brands like yours or companies like ours will pay money to them to reach their peers. So the options exist is the first part. And that is global. It's not an American thing or a UK thing. It's also a huge Nigerian thing. There is this birth of young creators and their friends want to create. However, there are those who still want to work a 9-to-5 job. They're programming, they're learning Python, they're learning new coding, and they want to work. Leaders work every day to create a safer, more productive, higher performing, more diverse, and more, just a better work environment. And I want to quote directly from a new leadership principle that was just added at Amazon. We have about 7 leadership principles. And just last year, coincidentally, they added a new one, and that new one is called Strive to be Earth's Best Employer. That is a ridiculous North Star, because how do you want to be Earth's best employer? They said leaders lead with empathy, leaders have fun at work, leaders make it easy for others to have fun. Leaders ask themselves, are my fellow employees growing? Are they empowered? Are they ready for what is next? And leaders have a vision for and commitment to their employees' personal success, whether it be at Amazon or anywhere else. The reason I wanted to talk about this leadership principle is that it's called leader. It's not an employee principle. You can be employed, but for you to become a leader, you have to show these characteristics, because ultimately the people at the base are following you. You have CEOs who are saying, oh, these people don't have any manners. They're not working hard. We're in my time. About your time. If you think about, and I say this with all the love in the world, some leaders in Africa and in Nigeria who people call, let's call them not ruthless, but very driven. And the employees are complaining, oh my God, I'm going to 2 a.m. I'm writing emails and I'm doing this and that. They are chances are they're millennials. I have seen very few 33-year-olds follow those leaders and continue to toe that path. It is not sustainable. I'm not sure who it was. I think it was engineer, because I talked about Elon Musk. As the pandemic was coming to an end, it's not ended, but as things started to reopen, Elon Musk said, I want all my people back in the office, or at least that's the way social media painted it. They painted him as ruthless, was terrible. What kind of man is this? How can he say people should, we're not going, we're resigning. What he actually said was he wanted leaders back in the office. Because for his leaders, again, by the way, they're also not Gen Z. That's why they were able to come back. For his leaders to come back into the office meant that they then set the tone for what it is that their teams would do. But surely, because they're innovating at a rapid rate, driverless cars, space, they don't have large meetings. Their principles are fantastic. I love it. But the reality of it, and I know that it sounds painful, companies here, big, small, medium, large, telcos, they have to fix the leaders. Leaders empower people. People get home and say, oh my God, I work for such a great company. Hardly. They come back and say, my boss. Oh, my boss. Companies where we're running at the speed of light, we're innovating. Sometimes I have like 6 work streams going on at the same time. I'm losing my mind, but then I have to remember that if I have 6, my team is probably overwhelmed as well. Sometimes you have just solid employees, but then most times as a leader, you have to remember to tell them, hey guys, do you guys want to go hang out for a pizza? Or, let's do a working lunch. We're all on the screen, eat your food while we're doing this, and let's talk about it. Let's discuss this particular work breakdown, this work back structure while we're having lunch. You see that people feel better about showing up. People feel better about giving it all. And even if the other tech company next door offers them more money and they take it, they leave with a good taste in their mouth, and chances are they'll churn right back. I found in that research that we talked about that people are leaving, for many reasons, but they're rotating. I've seen people who leave a particular company, they go to another one, and 4 years later, they rotate back to that one because they didn't leave with a bad taste in their mouth. So I've seen people in the comment section, I'm a small tech company, I'm a medium security company, I'm a big security company. It's more painful in Nigeria because people appear not to have a choice, but things are changing. A security guard does a weird dancing video in his halogen uniform, suddenly he starts trending. Some guy picks him up, he starts making videos, and then he creates something they're creating.
Thank you so much, Ngozi. I mean, we definitely very interesting insight. I mean, I think what you said just reminds me of a conversation I had recently, that we even need to change our mindset to what we say VUCA is. That is no longer volatile, but velocity. So how fast you can respond is ultimately what makes you successful. And that it's not uncertain, but in this case, it's unorthodox, meaning do things differently if you're going to get ahead. And then they said, well, it's definitely not complex, but co-creation. It has to be a society or a future where we're working together.
One more thing to that. I wanted to say something very quickly, pardon me, about the hiring process, right? I follow a bunch of recruiters on LinkedIn because I think they're fun. It's so interesting, the things that they talk about. One of them is specifically Nigerian, and it's interesting how he talks about the recruitment process. Young people are creating, they're becoming social influencers. Your people should actually be the social influencers for your company. If Mr. Dapo, who is the CEO of his company, comes on LinkedIn and talks about how at Hybrid Solutions, something, and we're looking for brilliant young people. Do you write this? Do you write? It gives them an insight. I think the CEO can be like this. You know what? I'm going to apply. Let's see what they have to offer. Not the job search. I posted it, and 16 million of us write the exam. And when you come in, the guy in the suit and the tie, locked up to here, nobody cares. Your recruitment process also very important.
Thanks a lot for that. So I think leaders who inspire at the end of the day. So I think that's why I want us to continue this conversation with you now, speaking to leaders who inspire. We've said already, it rises and falls on leadership. How can organizations really get started on prioritizing this culture of well-being and wellness? Because it looks like it's not something we can dance around. It is here to stay. And whether small, big, large, you don't get a pass on whether or not you should get on board this train. So really, how can organizations get started on imbibing this culture of prioritizing wellness? Dako, please. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so very much for having me again. You could see how I'm just excited and laughing. And I don't know how many of us on this call are actually millennial. I doubt if there's anyone apart from maybe the organizers. So myself, Ngozi, Ian, and Jamie should be within at least some, and yourself, Lola, as well. So I think this is speaking so strongly to us because of what we do. And we are leaders, where we find ourselves. But I think employers at this time should begin to look at very creative way to bring the workers to the table. And when I say bring the workers to the table, let me go a bit academic. If you go within the ISO systems, and because in the wake of all of this pandemic and everything, the ISO, that's International Organization for Standardization, came up with a new standard for the 5,003, basically to address well-being, wellness, and what they call psychological mental health issues. And I think organizations need to come to that point right now, because a key part of this structure for PDCA is consultation and participation. In the traditional format, you just dish out the instruction and expect everybody to carry it out. It does not work anywhere again. I mean, you are going to have your business fall down on your feet and you have nothing to hold back, because you have to come as an employer to the table and ask questions, be creative, bring yourself to the level. We're not saying you are now 20. I'm not going to be 20 right now, but I've got to think like the 20. I've got to think like the 25 and ask them, okay, so guys, what exactly are you thinking about? How do we do this? In my own time, this is what I read in the books. And this is very interesting, because these days, the traditional books that we all read are misleading a lot of the leaders as to how to get people to work. I don't know how many authors are coming up, who are right there now, actually telling us, I'm not saying I'm an old person, but we have to start telling ourselves the reality that the way we started and where we are now is not exactly how the new people are coming into the industry. So how exactly are we supposed to address them? We need to learn to be able to consult with them, participate with them, build trust, to let them know. I was talking to somebody recently and we're having a chat, and the guy came in and said, hey, I got to your office and I said I was looking for Dapomolade, and somebody said, is it Dapsin? And he was shocked, because in my organization, generally and everywhere, I'm called Dapsin. But that was my security officer saying, is it Dapsin you are looking for? And the guy got to me and said, hey, Dapo, this your own is even too much. Even your security call you Dapsin. I say, because that's what we have agreed to call ourselves in the business. Tell us your name, tell us what you are comfortable with. As simple as that, it builds trust, it builds openness, it builds some fairness, it allows people to come to the table. You can just tap me at the back and say, hey, Dapsin, I've got something to say, rather than I need to knock on the door, book an appointment, send you a mail, can I see you tomorrow? These are very traditional, they are not working again. So because if people can't express themselves and come to you, then you can't know exactly what they're going through. So they need to be able to have that freedom to say, I can tap you at the back to say, hey, buddy, how are you doing? We still do our job and everybody will still get their job done. So have an open door and fairness policy. And of course, let me put this very clearly. You must have a sustained process for evaluation of your welfare, workplace welfare, workplace wellness, and also sustainability. How are you determining if indeed your people are not just healthy, but they are happy to stay? I read a research recently as I conclude, and it asks a group of people, plenty of them, why are you still in your workplace? And more than 75% say, because I love my boss. That's very interesting. I'm there because I love my boss. Oh, I don't want to resign because I don't want to leave this boss, And you see some bosses again doing the same thing. They go somewhere and they take you along. I'm sure a lot of us have taken people along to where we are going because of this. The boss, if you are going, I'm going with you. So leaders must come to the point where in this generation, they are creative enough to make sure that the situation that we are is what is driving us. Let's leave the traditional thing and then continue to evolve into what is going on. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And we're back again to leadership being a very important foundation to build any culture of sustainability or generally wellness. And I like the point around at the end of the day, it requires trust. And that's true. Trust is the currency of the modern business. It's not just what you have said or written down. It's that shared belief or agreement or commitment on the purpose. So Ian, I want to come to you now because increasingly, we're seeing a lot of organizations not only saying this is what we do, but they have to have an objective or formal way of doing it. And if we look back on the leadership values or virtues that Ngozi talked about, it requires a level of standardization to be able to transfer it across different organizations, locations, or what have you. So in addition to the new ISO standard that we talked about, what other standards or methodologies should we or leaders be aware of? And what does the journey to getting that accreditation or certification look like? What would be important for people who are interested in doing so?
Yeah, interesting question. I'm not sure I'll have the answer to a standard as such that can do this. As mentioned before, because I mean, 45,001, there are additional supporting standards for occupational health. I could get this wrong. Is it 45,004, is it? Or 3 or 4, I think. But anyway. Three. Thank you. There you go, Dapo. Good knowledge. So I know there are additional standards, which if you take those particular additional standards and look to apply them, it's how you do it in your business. Because if you're a large global corporate with 100,000 staff, then having leaders that are engaged will only touch upon a small number of people. You need leaders to be all parts of your business. Anybody can be a leader. Okay, senior managers need to be leaders by default, because senior managers have to, as part of their job role, be a good leader. So hopefully your senior managers are good leaders, your CEOs are good leaders, but you have to inspire, I think, other workers within the business to be leaders. So when it comes to well-being, how you empower other leaders across your organization is going to be, how do you do it that's relevant to your business? So I go back to my logic. I have a model in my head that I sort of stick to in a way. I try to shape it. I listen to people today and it's evolving. So I always try and shape it and evolve. But if you're going to drive interest and create leaders, they need to be passionate about that and believe it. Okay, so how do you connect your workers to your goal is the skill of your organization. Because if you're in telecommunications, then you're going to have a fast changing market. Technology is constantly evolving. People are going to have to upskill and constantly keep in line with the latest tech. So you've got the pressures of work. You're going to have, as you say, the physical risks of working at height, radiation, telecommunication equipment, electricity, but how do you find the one common theme within your business? So I'll give you one example. I worked with a quarry, and the quarry had a logistics area, it had a manufacturing area, and it obviously had the excavation, the quarry. So a lot of big risks. What did it focus on? Well, it focused on mobile phone usage, okay, and it focused on well-being and time spent away from the job. So it encouraged people to not be on their phones all the while. It encouraged, it sort of strictly enforced no mobile phone usage around the site, but it also encouraged people to take time away from their devices, their computers, and their telecommunication equipment. And it focused just on that one thing. And this goes back to me simplifying it. Lots of risks, lots of training, you could bombard people, but it focused on just the devices that people were connecting with, their work devices, their computers, and the phones. And it did that so well. It put posters up and it encouraged people within the business to be leaders and to challenge other workers if they were seen on their mobile phones. So if workers were on a phone taking a call or working too long on a computer or doing something where they were not following the kind of well-being guidelines, other workers would challenge them. And it was so good within this business that I actually, when I talk on my phone sometimes, I have what I call happy feet. I sort of just walk around in a little circle while I'm on the phone. I was challenged by every single person in that business. Can you stand still, please? Which was a bit extreme, if I'm honest. I wasn't walking, I was just moving around in a little circle, but it was great to see this organization clearly sticking to their principle. Now, Your business may have transportation, or it may have manufacturing, or different. Focus on one or two things, encourage people to be leaders, create an environment where people are happy to challenge each other. And then something I often say is also be happy to be challenged. Are your workers happy to be challenged? Okay, your workers might challenge others, that's great, but are they happy to be challenged themselves? Now, if you've got that kind of culture, then you've got lots of people working in the same direction. And we talked earlier about trust. That shows trust. Okay, that shows trust, that empowers people. And if you empower people, you've got 100,000 brains working in an organization, and not just the senior manager's brain. 100,000 brains will always be more powerful than one. So the solutions will come from your workers. Engage them, trust them, and create local leaders. Is there a standard to work to on that? There are some other ethical standards on labour, I think, that exist. Is it SA 8800? I think there's some other ones out there. There's probably more experts. Dapo's nodding his head. I think you may know more about these than me. But I think often the wellbeing ones go beyond some of these standards, and companies can demonstrate a better working environment for future recruitment that go beyond just certificates on the wall. Sometimes they can demonstrate this in other ways as well. I hope that helps.
It does, certainly, and thank you. I quite like that, because I tend to say, look, certifications do not deliver the competence. It just shows you've gone through something. So I like how you have said, look, it requires the leaders, it requires creating a community of practice. It requires us being able to challenge each other to do better. And that's where trust comes in, right? Yes. So I hope everyone's having a good time, because you can see how we started out from a very technical topic in a way, but we've brought it down home. We've made it really, really simple in terms of the fact that you don't really need to make a huge investment on tech or all of those things to create that wellness or well-being in the organization. You don't need to wait for HR to start it, because at the end of the day, we are all leaders in a way. So if you agree to be followed or follow effectively or challenge others, that makes you also on that journey. So, I mean, interesting conversations. And thank you so much. I mean, as most good things go, we slowly have to begin to wind down. So, Engineer Badmus, I have the final question for you, which I'd like you to speak to. And then for all my panelists, I'd like you to begin to think of your closing remarks, just 1-2 nuggets on top of the many you shared earlier on. So, Engineer Badmus, we've got a survey report out of the UK saying that when it comes to mental health and how it impacts the organization, it's about an estimated £26 billion per annum. Now, that's quite scary when you think about the size, the quantum of that. But it's also gone on to say, if we're able to effectively identify, mitigate, and plan, you notice in this case, it didn't even say respond. So that means, as we said on the call already, it has to be a proactive approach to managing well-being, that we can save at least 30% from this loss we're seeing to well-being and wellness. So in very clear, concise steps, because I know people on the call would be keen to take their notes, how should tech companies really be thinking of a risk framework for monitoring well-being? Because I think it was Ian who mentioned that, and even Dapo, you can measure the other things, the physical risks and incidents, but when it comes to well-being, it's so subjective. You can't really see what's going on, but here you go, 26 billion, which is huge. So really, the way we're planning risk around cyber, all of that, how should we go about, or really, should we even be thinking about a risk framework? And what would those levers in that framework be? So let's talk about that quickly. And then for the panelists, please begin to think about your closing remarks, 1 or 2 extra nuggets. Thank you.
Thank you so much, my powerful moderator. The truth is very clear. And that truth is that risk as a concept covers everything. When mental health issues are also part of risk framework, whether we use ISO 31001 to serve as a framework, or you use the COSO framework to serve as a framework, whichever one you use, measuring the impact of mental health is a critical risk factor in every organization. When you look at the data that is just presented in UK, unfortunately, it's so unfortunate. We don't have data like that in Nigeria. We have seen people jumping from 3rd Mainland Bridge, entering Lagoon. We've seen people unhappy, under depression, and created some problems and killed themselves. But data are not there in the country. But with this data, it has shown that has a lot of huge impact on this economic aspect of our life. When I was speaking, I said return on investment, it has impact on it. That is why, if you look, let me go back to that ISO part. If you look ISO 45003, it is not a certificated ISO. You don't need to certify by it. It's just a guideline. My advice to all professionals is get this standard. And I know our organizer I can share with the organizer, they can share with all of those that attend this program. The guidelines are there. You don't certify it into ISO. It's just to look the guideline to determine some of your risks and opportunities. Because the truth of the matter is risk and opportunities are two sides of the same coin. When COVID came with its own risk, and one of them is this mental health issue. And as a matter of fact, organizations should start thinking of being proactive, having things like employee assistance program, EAP, where people have issues of mental health, they can address them, create awareness of mental health, make sure that people are not stigmatized, have policy on mental health. That is where the world is going. Please and please, leaders present here today, we need to be very proactive. A lot of us in this country are reactive. It is when there's problem, we go everywhere, social media, print media, and we make so much noise. After 2 weeks, we forget everything. We need to be proactive, and proactiveness is all about risk, because risk itself is the effect of uncertainty on objectives. Whatever you want to achieve as a business, since we've known today that mental health has impact on that business, therefore we take mental health issue as a critical risk issues. And we also take it beyond that to a people risk issues. Why? Because some people, some staff will leave your organization. We can see the attrition rate is very high now. Some will just leave your business, and at that point in time, they are talented staff, and as a result of mental health. But when you put this in place, you factor it into your risk model in ICT, in telecoms. I work for telecoms for over 15 years. So I understand the system back to back, I understand it from how it operates to the less. But I want to just say one thing here. Work, and I repeat, work is not the place you go. We should start thinking that work is what you do. But a lot of people think it's where you go, you have to be here for you to show that I'm working, and you see a lot of presenteeism, even worse than absenteeism. People do that a lot. So please, let's note that, and risk should be factor. The framework for risk are already there. And every good organization that are not doing this should start doing this. Let's factor it into the frameworks that I've just mentioned, and we'll get to where we are going. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Engineer Badmus. And I think one thing that struck me, and I think everyone listening, is the fact that you don't need to go and start reinventing the wheel. On your existing risk framework, you build on it, these elements you've heard on the call. Thank you so much for those insights. So I know for all those who joined, you must have your comments and your questions. Please keep them coming up. I would have my colleagues co-moderating with me begin to check and pick the question. So I want to go now to my panelists and your closing remarks. Ngozi, I know you mentioned you might have a hard stop. So let's start with you. Your closing remarks and any extra nuggets for the people listening today. Thank you.
Opportunity. Yes, I will need to head out after the closing remarks. I'll miss the Q&A, but I trust that the justice will be done to it. I want to go back very quickly in my closing remarks to something that Ian said and how you cannot measure well-being. Today, we see a lot of things where I think it's Suicide Awareness Month this month, and I'm sorry to go into such a dark place. The reason I mention that is you can't tell that people are showing up every day does not mean that they're okay. So my closing remarks will be have an open feedback loop. It's important to, like you said, we don't have to reinvent because people feel, well, it's too much. And especially as in a third world country where we feel like, get on with it. Some people have not eaten, they're here complaining about well-being. It's very great. And it seems entitled. Oh, this one has come again with their well-being matter. But it's a big deal. In 5 years, in 10 years. And that's why it's called sustainability, right? So that it's sustained. Your company isn't built to be done in 2 years. It's so that 10 years from now, 5 years from now, you would have built a culture of openness, a culture where people are not afraid to speak. So my closing remarks would be, let us almost enforce an open feedback loop, whether it's anonymous, whether it's people need to be able to speak. And I know it's very difficult. I say that knowing that no matter how much you give people, they are not, they won't take it, I should go and put it in the suggestion box as if you wouldn't know it's me. Yeah, I should come to a meeting and come and talk like you wouldn't know it's me. However, if you start to live that culture as a leader and create an open mechanism for feedback, people will emulate what it is that they see.
Thank you so much, Ngozi, and thanks for sacrificing your morning to join us. Certainly learned a lot. And yeah, so again, thanks for being an ambassador of the message of leadership. I quite enjoyed listening to you. So have a good day. Thank you so much. So Ian, we'll take your closing remarks and comments at this point.
Yes, thank you, Ngozi. And yeah, I think building on what Ngozi just said, it is difficult to measure well-being, but I think my key point I think today is, for that very reason, you can't tell people to be happy. You can't tell people not to be upset, and it's normal for people to be unhappy, stressed, and it is the work-life balance that might cause these. So often it may not be things at work that can affect people's well-being, and it can be outside the employer's control. So for all these reasons that are difficult for organizations, what you have to try and do is empower individuals to give them the tools themselves to control these risks. Okay, it's unlike other hazards where the employer controls them for you. For well-being, you have to empower your workers to understand how they can control these risks for themselves and take action themselves. And you have to monitor this in some ways, but it's softly. You can't tell people not to be upset or in extreme circumstances not to commit suicide. That we know that doesn't work. You have to address the root causes and empower people to make those decisions themselves. So there are ways to do that. It's more of a skill. It's a bit more challenging sometimes than other areas of risk control, but yes, we don't have, I'm conscious of time, so I'll just finish on that. And thank you for today and the opportunity to speak to everyone. I wish everyone a safe day. Thank you.
Thanks, Ian. Please, I hope you're staying on, because I'm sure there'll be.
Yes. Yeah, I'll stay.
I'm sorry about that. I think that's a network issue. Can anyone else hear her, or it's just me that can hear?
I can hear you, Elizabeth.
Okay.
No, I think Ms. Lola, I think she's having issues with her network. So maybe we'll just call Mr. Dapo to also give his closing remarks while she's trying to come back on.
All right, can you hear me?
Please.
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, good. Thank you so very much. What a day we have had here today. In my closing remarks, I just want to drop some very quick nuggets for everyone here. If you're a worker, or you are an employee, or you are an employer, I want to say that first, you need to know that happy, healthy people or workers, they are always productive. If they are happy and they are healthy, they will be productive for your business. Investing in employee well-being and engagement drives your return on investment. That's a fact. Tested, proven, research has shown that when your workers are engaged and they're happy, you will have return on your investment. Number 3, employee wellness and well-being is good for business. Whatever your level of business is, whatever, either you're an SME or you're a big one, when your workers are well and their well-being is taken care of, you will make your business will be sustainable. Number 4, as awareness works, well-being always wins. Wellness works, well-being always wins. So when people are there and their well-being is looked after, you will win, and it's a win-win. The workers will win, the employer will win. And my final word is this. Recently, as I saying this to my employees as well, my partners at work, I said, don't just work in hybrid. you also need to please live life. And this is very important for me. It's one thing I'm driving in my team right now. Please don't just work here, live life. Some of us work in places where you don't talk to anybody. Nobody knows anything about you. You have no friends. I always say this: if you have someone in your workplace, in a group, in a team who knows nobody, does not talk to anyone, does not participate in anything, you need to quickly do your evaluation. That person may be going very close to the tail line of making a drastic decision. So please, let's all of us live here to say, we will not always work, but we will live life, because life is meant to be lived. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I did have a timeout there. My apologies. So Engineer Badmus, to the audience for any questions or comments. Thank you so much.
I repeat again, thank you, my powerful moderator, and thanks to all the audience and all the panelists members. Thanks for bringing me here. I will start from the individual point of view. All our colleagues present here, if you check the play mirror, the person you see on that play mirror is a person responsible for your wellness, is a person responsible for your well-being, is a person responsible for your safety. So if you see yourself, note that my well-being, I'm also responsible for it. If you see a woman in your village and you see that woman there, that means that is a woman responsible for your health and safety and well-being. So me, Jamiu Badmus, I am going to see myself and I'm going to make sure that my well-being is taken care of and I manage my life the way it's supposed to be. Please, all individuals, all colleagues, never get so busy making a living that you forget to make a life. And I repeat, never get so busy making a living that you forget to make a life. Very important to us as individuals. And to all leaders that are present here, leadership is all about translating vision or strategy into reality. And one of the key things that affect strategy is culture. Whatever programs, whatever initiatives as leader you want to introduce, make sure that you understand the culture of your people. You know the culture of your people, you manage that culture so that the culture will not manage you and make you fail in your strategy. And finally, I want to coin a well-being, a sustainable well-being equation for all of us to take home today. And that is healthy body plus healthy mind is equal to happy human. When you have healthy body plus your healthy mind, then we become happy human. Thank you so much for this great opportunity, and thanks, moderator. Thank you.
Thank you so much to the panelists. You could not. I mean, I'm so excited that I learned a lot, and as I've heard. I'll just summarize quickly again. But if anyone has a quick question that has not been addressed, we've got about 8 minutes or so, 7 minutes to the end of our session. I mean, I think as would be expected, right? Maybe just to add my own closing remarks to everything we've learned so far. I think well-being and wellness doesn't have to be a big activity that you need so much expense to begin to get on board what is important. We should focus on the right things. We should focus on creating an organization where everyone feels welcomed and thrive. We should to say this on behalf of the leaders, that sometimes leaders don't even know it all. So employees on the call or HR managers, not all of them might be taken, but if you follow the insights, particularly the ones Ian shared, it would be easy to sort of pass the message on. And then I think looking at where we're going through in the world right now, I think if we can be anything, we should be kind. Empathy is key. There are a lot of people who are going through things that you cannot imagine. You might not be at work, but at home, such that truly everyone sees an opportunity to be able to thrive and feel welcome in the workplace. So thank you so much, everyone, for staying with us. I think I want to specifically thank TTSWG for the opportunity this morning. It's always nice to see when corporate bodies and organizations go beyond the ordinary And these are very important topics, particularly for these times. So thank you so much. And Elizabeth, do we have any comments or questions?
Yes, we have.
In case I've missed anything, but over to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much to all our panelists. Thank you very much, Mr. Song, for moderating as well. Yes, surely we have questions in the question and answer section. And I see that Mr. Cook has responded to one of the questions about how do we ensure that we integrate a robust system that addresses the proactive prevention and management of inherent occupational health hazard, if not effectively controlled, will still impact on the employee well-being and wellness. But that has been answered. For other questions, we have, okay, it seems like they were comments actually, the 5 different questions we had. Someone was asking whether participants who speak live, but other people seem to be commending the presentation. So it seems like a lot of answers were given. I also want to check the chat because I saw that some questions were being asked on the chat. So I just want to look through and share that. I know somebody wanted Engineer Badmos to go through the 9 lives that he mentioned earlier again. We seem to know, I've taken notes of all of the 9 points that you mentioned. But I'm just looking through the chat just before we let our panelists and moderator go and call this video. Okay, it says, throw more light on sustainability framework. Please, Ekanem, can you please expand on your question? I don't think that was clear enough as to what you mean by show more light on sustainability framework. Do you mean sustainability framework for wellness, well-being, health and safety? If that's what you mean, we have experts here to answer that question. But so far, those are the questions that we have. Those are some of the questions that we have. So thank you. Thank you very much. No questions for now. No questions after the session. So I want to believe that the session was very insightful and educating as well. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you for spending that time with us to run us through how well-being impacts on sustainability and how it impacts on businesses in the long run. I think for me, this was also a learning opportunity for me. And one of the things that stood out for me the most was when Mr. Cook was talking about tailoring your well-being focus, because a lot has been said here about well-being, and it seems like, oh, you have to turn your organization upside down to respond to certain things that have been spoken about here. But he mentioned that you need to tailor it to your business to see what is high risk for you and what is low risk, and to make sure that you're not trying to do everything at the same time, to make sure that you are addressing what really affects you, your business, and your employees. So yes, that was very insightful. Thank you again. Thank you, participant, for your gracious comments. I saw everything as to how well the panelists presented. But before we bring this to a close, we'd like to take a vote of thanks from Mr. Mecca Olowola, who is the managing partner for Zenera Consulting. Zenera Consulting is a sustainability communications firm. And we'll just take that vote of thanks from the managing partner before we bring this to a close. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Elizabeth, and all the panelists, the moderator, Rolai, for leading the conversation on what I would like to call the subject of our times. And a big thank you and a big shout out to TTSWG for putting together this webinar. With the situation of the labor market these days, employers are forced to rethink and re-strategize and determine what the best working environment is for employees. So whilst the technology sector has been very promising in terms of the freedom that it presents to, aggregators and participants, we sometimes, tend to miss out on the downsides
of these effects on these said freedoms. We all know how much time telecommunications or technology employees put into their deliverables, and these long hours, long screen times, and the risk of falls, like that was started with earlier on, radiation, energy consumption, etc., present a challenge, when these are not properly managed. So this is coming at a very topical time, and we really appreciate everyone who has been a part of this. We see that people have dialed in from all over the world, and the conversations have started in the right places, from the comments and the feedback that we're getting. So we really, want to, appreciate everyone who's been a part of this webinar today. And we'd just like to say, this is not, the end of it. It's a journey, and we are all must put hands together, collectively, to make sure that we continue to push the tenets of sustainability. Sustainability used to be something that you did after you became successful, but today sustainability is what you need to be successful, in the first place. So I think I learned a lot personally. I was taking down notes, furiously throughout the webinar, and I like all the narratives that came from the various speakers. I recall and Cook saying that one of the things that we've learned is that employees shouldn't laden the workforce with too many workplace risks, and to be conscious about what the negative impact of work is, that we're saddling employees with. So I believe the experience from this webinar, enable every participant, to understand, no matter the level that you have come in, whether as an employee or an employer of labor, to understand why a sustainable culture, of employee well-being is important, and the several actions, that we can take to ensure that the efforts in our organizations are sustainable, not only sustainable, but are also scalable. We must understand, again, the speakers have made us to know that we will continue, to contribute our own part, and not to assume that what we're doing will not matter in the grand scheme of things, but rather we will continue to play our part, on the pathway to success. I'm glad, and I hope this webinar has been able to address most of the, the gaps that that you expressed to us before the beginning, before the commencement of the webinar. And and I hope that he has been able to demonstrate that it is possible to have a world, that is free of what I would call the workplace dystopia, and where there's less rancor, where there's less animosity, where there's freedom and there's peace of mind, that will lead us collectively to that sustainable world for both business, and the people who work in there as a whole. Thank you very much, once again, everyone. Thank you, Dakpo. Thank you, Ngozi. Thank you, Cook. Thank you, Lolai Song. Thank you for everybody who has been a part of this. Thank you, my great, compare Elizabeth. Thank you, Chirma. Thank you, everybody who's worked behind the scenes to make this happen. I see following social media, and I see a lot of posts, and the hashtag is moving. Thank you for everyone who's beyond all of that. I will close, in the words of Engineer Jamil Badmos, the equation he gave us, if you recollect, towards the end, of his submission, he says a healthy body plus a healthy mind equals a healthy human. Don't forget that. Not only practice it, also preach it to others. I wish you a very great weekend. Bye for now.
Thank you very, very much. Thank you, Mr. Lula, for that very inspiring closing remarks, or vote of thanks. And another thank you again. This is another round of thank yous to all our participants for staying closely, for participating in the conversations, for your feedback and comments. I see comments about sharing the recording. we will share that. But yes, it's been an amazing, 2 hours spent at this beautiful learning experience. So I want to thank you all for committing your time to this, for committing your energy to this, for committing your resources to this, for committing your participation to this. And I hope that we all go back as better employers, employees, and individuals of the society, and that we check our daily activities and make sure that they contribute to the betterness of all and sundry. But yes, that would be all for today. And we would definitely share updates on our upcoming activities. You can follow us on social media. You just search for Telecommunication and Technology Sustainability Working Group. That's the TTSWG. To stay connected to all our activities, you can catch up with different segments of this webinar on social media as well. I know that as the webinar was going on, as discussions were going on, different points were being highlighted. So in case you didn't take notes, you can go back and take notes from our different platforms. But a very big thank you to each and every participant. And we've come to the end of this webinar. So I just thank you and have a great day. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you.